Augustiner Edelstoff. This is a supreme German beer coming out of Munich. Augustiner is one of the big six. They're most famous for their Helles lager. It is considered a god tier beer in the beer world. It is German excellence. Just an absolutely outstanding Helles lager. I put it up there with Tegernseer. Those are my two favorites. They're obviously one of the big six at Oktoberfest. And this is their Edelschoff. It is a kind of special export beer, and I've not tried it before. This is my first time. It's coming in at 5.6%, so it's a little bit bigger than their Helles, their standard Helles. Um, and I'm very interested to see what's going on with it. Not really sure what style we're talking about. I imagine it's a Helles, but just a little bit bigger and a little bit different. Kind of special Helles beer. I think Tegernseer actually calls it Tegernseer Special. So I think this is the kind of equivalent to that. So Edelstoff is Augustiner's kind of special Helles, I'm going to say. So let's give it a sniff. Yeah, really nice, bright, bready aroma mixed in with that kind of classic, noble, herbal, very slightly zesty and slightly flowery aroma. But there's a nice kind of herbal tint to this. Yeah, a little bit of herbal, a little bit of zest. Really nice, fresh smelling beer. It looks absolutely beautiful. Uh, Amazing white, clear, brilliant white head. And then just a fantastic clarity on that. It's I'd say it's slightly, ever so slightly darker than the Helles, but still a very much a golden lager color. Just looks really great in the glass. Looks like it's going to be an absolute gulper of a beer. Stop messing about. Can't bend my arm up here to drink it. I'm struggling. All right, all right. Let's get involved with it. Okay, yeah. I mean, you can't expect anything less than just exceptional from Augustiner. Straight in, you're presented with more attenuation than the Helles. I think the Helles is softly sweet, kind of really bready, rounded maltness. This is slightly more attenuated. It's got I was expecting it to be bigger because it's a higher ABV, but in response to that, they've also dried it out a little bit more. So for me, it kind of in terms of body, it's sitting in between a Helles and a Pils. It's not as snappy and as dry as a Pils, and it's not as softly rounded as a Helles. It's kind of in between there. It has a little bit more bitterness, a little bit more snap, but definitely more going on than your kind of more gentle, softer Heller's beer. It is bigger. Um, there is great complexity on that malt base from the decoction. It is bread crust. There's a bit of crustiness on that malt base. It still drinks kind of uh, light honeyed into bread crust, as opposed to a Helles, which is light honeyed into bready, kind of doughy bread. This has got that more of a kind of crusty edge to it. And then, yeah, that herbal note I was getting on the nose is coming through in the taste profile. It's a nice, noble herbal bitterness. I'd I'd say this is Hallertauer, but it's not kind of, it's not floral. It's not zesty on the tongue. It is kind of a nice bitterness, slightly elevated from a normal Heller's, with a nice herbal note to it that goes into a kind of slightly darker malt profile in terms of like bread crust, instead of white bread, um, and it drinks slightly drier. It's kind of a perfect in between in terms of a Munich Helles and a German Pilsner. It sits in the middle in terms of the malt, but is way closer in terms of bitterness to a Helles. So malt wise, mouthfeel wise, dryness, blah blah blah, it's in the middle. Um, and then bitterness is closer to a Heller's, but it still presents more. It still gives you a little bit more bite. It's a really nice beer. Right, so to sum up this beer, I want to say it has export beer on the label. So I mean, I think that's referring kind of like to the 5.6. It's a little bit stronger, but in terms of a beer, it kind of straddles multiple styles, and it's kind of like they're taking from different elements that kind of produces this special beer that does work quite well. I think you're talking about like a malt profile that sits in the middle of a Heller's and a German Pils. So it's not quite as dry and as snappy as a German Pils, but it's definitely more attenuated than your classic Heller's. And then in terms of hop bitterness, nowhere near as far as a Pils, but definitely more present than a Heller's. And it's singing in terms of herbal bite, and that kind of reminds me a little bit of like a Keller beer. So it's kind of borrowing from different German styles to produce this beer that is very, very much balanced, but kind of an elevated. So I think maybe you could think of this as almost a fest beer in disguise, but it's not quite a big six Munich Helles Fest beer, because that is kind of a an Uber Helles, if that's I don't know, that's a weird way of saying it, but it is a stronger but still honeyed, sweet, and really drinkable Helles beer. Whereas this is kind of like, it gives you a bit more bite. It is a bigger beer, and they've also managed to dry it out. And that herbal kind of note is really kind of distinguishing it from a Heller's, and reminding me, like I said, of a Keller beer. And then it's got that almost snap of a Pils, but nowhere near as bitter. So it's kind of a mix match, but it does work. It does drink really, really well, and it's just another example of just really expert German brewing. And I mean, it's an export beer, and it's something to show off Germany, to the rest of the world, and that's exactly what this beer does. So I mean, every beer lands from Augustiner. There's not one beer on their lineup that's like, oh, I'm not sure about that. It is just another absolute German banger. So cheers to that.